Hey there, this is Danny with Patrick Adair Supplies, here for another ring box video. This month is our Glacier ring, which is our December ring box. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's open it up. All right, let's go ahead and open up this box. So this month our freebie is going to be a 20-gram color pigment. This one just happens to come with the shiny white. Yours could come with any one of our different colors, so keep an eye out for that. It could add a fun little twist to your ring to include one of the colors that you get. Okay, next we're gonna go ahead and see what we've got inside. This month we're gonna be working with our blue glow powder. We're gonna be working with Fluorite. It's a kind of muted, super opaque material. It's fun to work with just because it adds a lot of depth to your ring. It is a really nice, just subtle blue as well, which will look cool with this ring. All right, next up we have our Glacier White Opal. This opal is a really nice one to work with. It's really nice and lightly colored white, and it has a tiny bit of blue in there. So it looks really cool when it catches the light. You'll just see a little bit of blue, which just adds a little bit of shininess and something different to look at with this ring that's going to be so white. Next we have our Cobalt Chrome Ring Blank. This one is really cool to work with because you can get such a nice mirror finish on it, and it's really lightweight. So it's fun to work with just because it's such a cool, light, really shiny material for a ring. All right, let's go ahead and get started.
The first step today will be to crush the fluorite. The main goal when I'm crushing the fluorite is to break all the pieces up until they're about 1/4 to 1/3 of the size of what they were. So we're not looking for a fine dust, just to make the pieces a little bit smaller so that they don't take up the entire inlay. Once you're happy with the size of the fluorite pieces, go ahead and mix them with your Glacier White Opal in a separate vial, and just make sure to do, I went for about half and half, maybe a little heavier on the opal, but just mix them together. Next, since we're using a Cobalt Chrome Blank, we'll go ahead and tape up our ring mandrel and put our ring on the mandrel. This ring is pretty straightforward to make. It's just going to be a layer of our medium C adhesive, our opal fluorite mix, and then our glow powder on top of that. We're not trying to fill the blank the entire way with glow powder, just to add some more depth to the ring. So I'm just going to be doing this initial layer and then filling the rest of the ring blank up with our super thin C adhesive. So as you can see here, I'm doing a drop of our medium C adhesive, letting it run until it's a little bit thinner, and then I'm pouring on the opal fluorite mix, and then covering that with the glow powder to kind of lock it into place. And then I do that again and again until I've gone all the way around the ring and covered the entire inlay channel with the opal fluorite mix and our glow powder. Once the entire inlay channel is filled, I go around again with the glow powder just to cover up any wet areas or make sure that there's nowhere that I can see the blank at the bottom of the channel. So we're just going around again with some more of our dry glow powder. And then I'll wet the whole thing with our super thin C adhesive and spray it with some accelerator to let the opals cure in place. Once I've allowed that to cure for a couple of minutes, I'm going to go ahead and just do a few layers of our super thin C adhesive. Since we've already filled most of the inlay channel up with our opal fluorite mix, it won't take all that many, so I probably will do 1 or 2 layers of our super thin just to fill in any gaps from where the inlay stops to the top of the ring blank. When you're doing this, you have to be really careful not to introduce air bubbles. So it's a combination of a lot of different skills to make sure that that doesn't happen. The first thing I'm doing when I add these layers of CA is I'm making sure that the lathe is spinning really slowly. As slow as I can get this lathe to go. So it's just a couple of RPMs a minute, not a ton. Just making sure that it will continue moving so that the glue will spread evenly around the entire ring. The other thing is making sure that you give it adequate time to cure. You don't want to be rushing it and using too much accelerator. I do use accelerator on each layer, but I'm holding it a foot to 16 inches away from the ring, and I'm just doing a quick second burst of the accelerator. So just a really quick hit with it, just enough to make sure that it will cure a little bit faster than normal. That way I don't have to wait as long to make each layer. Once I'm happy that the whole ring is filled up, we're going to go ahead and use our Dremel to Dremel everything flush again. Since we are using Cobalt, you do need to be careful because it's a bit of a softer metal. It's really easy to scratch and mar. So as I'm Dremeling, I'm just being really careful to not press too hard and not to focus on one area for too long. I just make sure to go around the entire ring slowly, Dremeling everything down, and then I can take care of whatever does happen with my sanding paper later on. Now that I'm done Dremeling, I'll go ahead and do my first 220 sand. So for this, I always do this to expose any other air bubbles or imperfections, to correct the color, because sometimes when I'm Dremeling, if the bit gets dirty or it heats up too much, it'll cause the ring and the glow powder to have a slight discoloration. So this 220 sand just helps take care of any of that, cleans it up, and makes it so that I can have a good idea of how this ring is going to look. It allows me to make any corrections now to the design before I get too far along and just can't correct any problems that I have. With this ring, because it's so opal heavy, I decided to go over the entire ring with the glow powder again and fill in a lot of those cracks and holes that form after you've Dremeled and sanded the opal. So I do that by just pouring a little bit of the glow powder over the ring and using my finger to press it down into the cracks and holes. And then I go over the entire thing again with our super thin CA adhesive and do one final layer of the super thin, just to allow all of the glow powder to really cure into the ring and stay in those holes and cracks. Once this layer of super thin CA adhesive is cured, I go ahead and just do my hand sanding again. Since we're doing Cobalt, you just have to be careful that you don't sand too heavily or round the bevels. If it happens, it's not the end of the world. I think the rings actually look really good with the rounded bevel, but if you want to keep the squared off bevel, go ahead and just make sure that as you sand, you keep it as level as possible. I always refer to this technique, position for sanding, as a crimp from rock climbing. If you look up what a crimp from rock climbing is, you kind of fold the fingers over and wrap the thumb over the pointer finger. And I essentially am doing the same position when I'm sanding. So that's kind of how I picture sanding, is a crimp from rock climbing. With the hand sanding process, I go from 220 to 500 to 1000 grit sandpaper, and then I finish it off with our 1200 grit. And then I'm going to go ahead and do a diamond paste polish, just because it really handles the Cobalt well. The Cobalt polishes up nicely with that. And since I'm using a uncolored glow powder, we didn't add any color pigment to it. You have to be careful not to use a buffing wheel, because a lot of the times that will heat the ring up so much that some of the polishing compound will penetrate into the top layer of your ring and cause you to have black spots or discoloration. So I just always use a liquid or a diamond paste polish when I'm working with uncolored glow powder. Looking at this ring, I'm really happy with how it turned out. I think it looks simple and elegant, but it also evokes memories of winter and glaciers, and I really love the combination of the Glacier white opal and the Cobalt. Something about the soft blue glow of the Glacier white opal combines really well with the nice mirror finish on the Cobalt. They just complement each other really well, and I think this ring looks really nice for how simple it is, and it was a lot of fun to make despite only having a few steps. But honestly, I hope you guys like this ring as much as I did. I'm a big fan of these simple designs. I think they're just really cool and a little bit understated so that they're not overbearing when you're wearing it on your fingers. Another nice thing about this ring is the little chunks of fluorite add a little bit of depth and break up that glacier white opal. I think if the entire thing was filled with the glacier white opal, it would look really cool, but it wouldn't have as much depth or character. It would just be a one note ring. So I'm happy that we have a little bit of breaks in the glacier white and just have a little bit of something different to look at when you're looking at your ring.
Thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed making this ring as much as I did. It was a lot of fun. Remember to like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel, as well as head over to Facebook to join our Facebook group so that you can share tips and tricks and learn from other ring makers. Thanks so much. See you guys next month.